presently the wheelchair Power Ranger. Now, back to the story. Should we see?
Yeah, he is. Let me.
Now,
Shirley's had a man before. I said, you've had a man
that we were mad at him laughing. This lady was born in Conehatta, Mississippi. Her father, who was always called Papa, worked for the telephone company. Now, we know this because once when he was out of town on business, he returned with hand-blown paperweights for each of his 3 daughters. The family lived on a farm, and one of her favorite memories was working with Papa outside in the fields or his rose garden, or taking those terrible dares from her brother Petty, who was such a tease to his tomboy sister, but he simply adored her. She finished high school and still remembers some of her Latin for love. She was very popular at the church socials and picnics, and because of this, she became engaged to Robert Pace, a local boy. Somewhere around...
And you're on.
Now, somewhere around this time, her 2 older brothers, Jesse and Bill, moved to Texas. Bill Winstead met and married Margaret, known as Maggie, Spray. The story goes that Maggie had a cousin who was extremely handsome. They say that when he smiled, which was often, you would notice his beautiful white teeth and his eyes that sparkled. Now keep in mind that Bill and Jesse had been urging Papa Winstead to move the rest of the family from Mississippi to Texas, which he did. Tearfully, Ruth left Robert, her fiancé, in Conehatta, thinking it was the end of the world. Shortly after moving to Texas, on a Sunday afternoon, you still got it. We should listen. Shortly after moving to Texas on a Sunday afternoon at Brother Bill's, she met that handsome man with the captivating smile and the laughing eyes, and it was love at first sight for John Redwine and Ruth Winstead. Poor Robert, who? Some 30 years later, Daddy told me about how pretty she was that day. And that's natural for a young girl. But what he said next, and the softness in his voice, I'll always remember. He said, she's just as pretty today, and her skin is just as soft. She has always had such pretty knees. Well, what can I say? With knees like that, it led to marriage. The year was 1927, and a classic love story begins. Their first child was a son they named David, even though he was stillborn. The doctor strongly advised no more children, for Ruth had developed blood poisoning and double pneumonia, and the complications left her legs drawn up under, making it impossible to walk. Johnny, as he was called, knew where to go at such a time as this, and so he knelt beside her bed in the hospital and prayed to his heavenly Father, surrendering everything to him if he would just spare this wife he loved so much. Does prayer work? Well, then came Helen Catherine, Stanley Petty, Betty Jo, and Bella Clove. Except for some minor ailments we have, and we all have those, she has been very sick very few days the rest of this life. You know, that must have been some prayer. When you talk with her, you know this love story is still going on, even though one of the partners has gone on to be with Jesus. They were married 45 years. Her personality traits. She loves everyone she knows, but she was a one-man woman. I never heard her talk or gossip about anyone, especially family. She was too loyal for that. She is feisty. Boy, is she feisty. But what a sense of humor. Another time in another place, she could have been a comedian. Her timing is perfect, and her quips are a stroke of genius. You just saw one a while ago. Motherly traits. She was a totally loving, strong disciplinarian. It just wasn't in her nature to ever withdraw her love as a form of punishment. She never said, I won't love you or if you love me, you will. Her way was very simple and uncomplicated. Here are the things you can do, and here are the things you cannot. And she knew that we would listen to that. Okay. Hi, folks. We're back live.
Due to technical difficulties.
Now, just so that you won't miss any of this, we have just stated
3 times.
we have just mentioned what Grandmother said we couldn't do. So it's only fitting I tell you what Bella and I did. Okay. I already picked out 2. So let's see. I still maintain that no little voice told me it was wrong to cut off Bella's curls when she said she wanted a Buster Brown haircut just like mine. Or for us not to dance like Fred Astaire and Ginger Roger on top of Mother's newly varnished Queen Anne dining room table. I guess Bella and I needed tubes in our ears so we could hear better. For I honestly don't remember Helen and Stanley having this kind of hearing problem. Today, parents are told to use a paddle or a wooden spoon to spank instead of the hand. That way it is not physical and coming from the parent. Poor Mother, she didn't know that. And I really don't think it would have made any difference. She always dealt out the punishment where the crime was committed, in front of God and everyone. She had a marvelous imagination which always caused fun things to happen. Like a costume for me to wear in a parade to celebrate victory in Europe. I would have called it VE, but y'all didn't know. That was victory in Europe. It was 1942, and I won first place. I'll have to tell you what it was because we couldn't do it now. She fixed me up like a little pickaninny black girl with little bows, and she blacked my face. And I got to dance all over the street and celebrate and all, and so I won first place. And then there was the time I entered a high school talent contest and then came home and asked Mother what I could do on the program. Well, my agent came up with a funny story about a man who went to war. She cleaned up the language he used and inserted the names of the school superintendent, the teachers, the mayor, and etc. She never realized that I would recite that for the next 20 years, winning many prizes. I performed at the Chamber of Commerce, Rotary Club, Kiwanis Club, Elks Club, the VFW, Brooke Army Hospital in San Antonio, and the New Mexico Veterans Hospital, not to mention every family reunion during the years. She was a dreamer, and she encouraged us to do so. We would sit at night and talk about the new station wagon we would someday buy, remember that? And the different places we would go. Stanley, my brother, had 7 years perfect attendance in Sunday school, and he had 7 bars. Helen with a few years less. My earliest remembrance was being a sunbeam in Sunday school, which I believe goes back to about the age of 4. Loving Jesus and going to his house on Sunday was not optional with Mother, although I never remember her attending with us. Because of her and Daddy, I know we will all be together in heaven, and who could ask for anything more than that? She makes no bones about how much she loves her daughter-in-law, Shirley. If Mother had not sent Shirley and Stanley away for a wonderful weekend getaway, Don would not have been born 11 months after her. But it was her fault, and you know it was. No, but Shirley did. No, we'll explain it to you later. She thought her son-in-laws were perfectly suited for her daughters. Remember I mentioned her blind loyalty? Well, she had a little joke among us, or we had a little joke among us, that if we ever took our husbands to court, she would testify in the son-in-law's defense. They all seem to know this, for today her remaining son-in-law loves her in a very special way, as did all the others. As a grandmother, here are some quotes. Whenever you would spend the night, you got to sleep with grandmother, and it was always like a slumber party. Another quote, picnics by the lake in Austin, and she'd always make Tang for us to drink.
Tell us about going to
Tang. Another quote, she always said, come here and give me a kiss.
Yeah.
Now that,
Did she wipe her mouth?
Yeah.
She had to wipe her mouth before she kissed you.
Another quote, she would kiss you and hug you, and when you sat beside her, she would sort of snuggle you under her arm. Another quote, she would play any kind of cards with you, but always to win. It wasn't so bad because we had Dr. Pepper and Heath Bar Candy or a bit of honey. No one could ever cook fried chicken like grandmother. She has the capacity to love each grandchild in a way that makes them feel very special. It doesn't stop there. Her great-grandchildren are her pride and joy. Now she has little Zachary to add to her heart, because with Mother, there's always room. Probably now at this age, Mother's greatest attribute is that she is a prayer warrior. The Bible describes her prayers as sweet incense floating up to God, and He has promised to grant her her heart's desire through her obedience. So I want all of you here to take heart. You are all of good stock. You came from this woman. And the Bible says, the fruit does not fall far from the tree. Isn't that comforting to know? Happy birthday, Mother. What would we do without you?